And we're up. Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. It's Hal Sparks, Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show. How are you doing today? What's happening, folks? I don't know why my window of chat is way up in the corner. Does anybody want to? I don't want to bother ChatGPT with this stuff. I've been annoying it all day with a bunch of dumb questions. I gotta say, if there's a single use for AI that I can think of, it's a great place for all your dumb questions. You know what I mean? Like those questions where you're almost embarrassed to ask them. Now, I don't really have that feeling in the same way that I don't believe in guilty pleasures. I don't think anybody has a say in what kind of music I like, what kind of clothes I like to wear, any of that kind of stuff. I don't have any like hidden shows that are like, oh, what's your favorite? Like if you didn't have to tell anybody, what would be your favorite movie or whatever? Like I don't even know how people live like that. Would you like? Are you just perpetually in 8th grade? Is that how your fucking life is? Like, I really like this movie, don't tell anybody. Who in the world lives like that? I don't get it. But when it comes to like questions where you're like, hey, maybe I should know the answer to this, but I kind of don't. I would say ChatGPT is your friend in that regard. Thanks. This is my Captain America hoodie. I feel like it's bad when it's not all zipped up. It feels funny to split the star down the middle. I mean, I know. These are problems I have that nobody else has. What's your favorite color? That's a difficult one. Floats around. Right now I'm digging purple. I'm really digging purple lately. Like I've been looking at purple clothes for stage wear. You know what I mean? And a person with IQ of 206 no juice. It's true. I would agree on an intellectual level. But on an interpersonal level, as far as embarrassment, what you should know, I always take great solace in that storyline that I think Sherlock Holmes didn't believe in or wasn't aware of the heliocentric model of the universe. He thought he didn't bother to memorize that the Earth revolves around the sun because what difference does it make? And in many ways, it's like a joke about stoicism. But I always appreciated that detail. So sometimes you can just kind of do it. Chip is great. Thank you for asking, Softball Paul. He's okay. He's a little pitiful today. He's not lethargic. He was running around yesterday. When we got back from the vet, he was definitely emotionally drained. And that's lasted a good 48 hours. Chip was sick. He was throwing up for 4 days, and we were starting to worry about him. He was starting to lose weight and start to look like a normal cat, which is not normal for him. So we took him to, is my audio super hot? No, I think I'm just super hot. That's what I think was happening. So we took him to the vet, and they ran some tests on him. He is gonna be fine. It had like little elevated liver levels or something like that, but the kind of stuff when you stare at it with a microscope seems like a lot, but he's okay. But he was definitely traumatized by going to the vet. He really was. Yeah, he was just like emotionally. It was the loudest I've ever heard him meow on his way there. He was pulling the whole like, "Ma! Ma!" When a cat does that, we're like, whoa, where'd you get that from all of a sudden? He was like, yeah, he was just crying for help, the poor thing. But he managed. He was fine, and he was sort of low back slinking around the office. He didn't. Yeah, he kept trying to get in the cabinets at the doctor's office. He was like trying to find a way to hide in a cabinet. It was adorable. But he's doing okay. He's just been kind of sleepy the last couple days. They gave him some anti-nausea meds. They gave him a shot, and we had to do X-rays on him to make sure he didn't have a blockage because he's had butt problems before. If many of you recall, when he's a foster fail, and the reason I became so attached is because I spent the first 3 months of his life wiping his ass and making sure he didn't sit in his own stool because he was basically melting. He burned all the hair off the back of his legs with. No question. His sex giving amount of 8,000 listeners to the podcast, and he would talk about something. Yeah, no. That's the stimulus check thing is Elon Musk idea. Not gonna happen. And again, if he does, hey, knock yourself out. Try to buy your way into the election. You're not gonna fix the debt that way. So have fun. Also, it's bullshit. So, and we got a lot of bullshit to cover today. Trust me. So, Kash Patel is in. So, the end of the FBI. If you're a serial killer, it's a great day to be you, I guess, because they're not going to be looking at murderers or sex traffickers or cross state line criminals of any sort. They're just going to go and bother, I guess, Adam Schiff and some Democrats start crawling up their asses about stuff or going after judges he doesn't like. Meanwhile, organized crime. Congratulations, guys. Your support of Donald Trump in New York City has bought you as much wiggle room as Vladimir Putin has. So, they always talk about like how Russia's sort of a mafia state. Well, the mafia has bought themselves some wiggle room, and not only is he going to call off the dogs on the mob in the United States, Kash Patel, he's also going to attack the cartels with a bombing campaign. Never mind. By the way, they won't consider it a foreign war even if we open fire into Mexico because they think we own Mexico. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch my Technocracy special the other day. Now, Trump it looks like he's going to be found in contempt of court on a couple of these orders, and a lot of the money is going out the door anyways on a bunch of these things. The Doge, I wish I could find that. Hold on. The Doge expenditure site. Savings, I don't know, website. They have, this is the spending tracker. This might be it. Okay, that's the bullshit one. There's another one. Yeah, okay. So, right now, the Doge guys have this, and I want to show you guys this. The Doge guys have this listed as like, here's your savings, $55 billion. And the number one thing is USAID. So what they're saying is by the elimination of USAID, because it had a budget of about $40 billion, they get credit for the elimination of all 40 of those $1 billion, even if those billions of dollars were necessary to keep people alive and help American farmers and all kinds of other shit, or grease the wheels of trade in other countries, or make sure that there are, I don't know, functioning docks where we want to sell shit. And there's a myriad of reasons why USAID does what it does. But number one here, and the reason it's number one is because they want credit for eliminating the agency and just count $40 billion in savings right away. Now, USAID has not gone away. They have rolled it, they've taken away its building, and they have put it under the State Department directly. A good, I would argue, 60 to 80% of what it does is continuing or will continue. So the savings are all bullshit. Secondly, the money that they are saving, guess what? You're not getting it back. Guess what? Yeah, you're not getting it back. They're not going to give some sort of incentive payment for dealing with the suck. This is a down payment on Trump's making permanent his tax cut. That's what this is. They are trying to strip all this shit out so they can justify his tax cut, which blows a huge hole in the budget, and they'll never get anywhere near it. Because even, again, when you have $55 billion sounds like a lot of fucking money. Except when you realize you have a $7 trillion U.S. budget. This is chicken shit money. To quote Mickey from Snatch, I dropped that much run for the bus. Run for the fucking bus. Okay, so, and I'll show you what I mean. So they have these lists of things, like here's the value of the savings, and this is the wall of receipts, total contract value, and here's the savings. Now, watch this. Total contract value, $21,382. That's what they want you to look at. Savings, $0. And there's a bunch of those. There's a bunch of those where they zeroed out the contract, but they have to pay it out anyways. They haven't saved shit. You're just not getting the service anymore. Because by canceling it or not paying it out, you still are, because you signed a contract, you're still responsible for the money going out the door. So all they're doing is canceling the service we would have gotten, I suppose. For that, they send everybody home. Nobody's doing the work they were paid to do. So the money is just, they're setting fire to it. This is, I don't know why the fuck this is in green, right? Okay. So total contract value, they go through a bunch of these. And on this is doge.gov/savings, which is hilarious. Now, they go through a bunch of these too. Like here's apartment buildings like commercial buildings that Doge is looking into. A Department of State, location, Miami, Florida. Square footage, 3,000. Value, $112,000. Now, if you select the savings, there it is. $7,383. Notice how the first number Oh my God, look at that, $112,000. They must have just, I don't know, set fire to a small apartment building and I don't know, or just gave it away. Yeah, of that 112, they saved 7. Okay, there's a bunch of these, like Department of Justice in Kansas City. There's this $1 million savings, allegedly, from this 51,000 square foot building for the Department of Justice. Lease termination sent 12225, effective 2/1/26. Tenant will relocate into another local building. Annual lease cost $900,000. Total savings $1.2 million. Tenant will relocate into another local building. Okay, so what would be the cost of that tenant moving into the other building? Is that the U.S. government? Like, we have to have an office there? You do realize that you're going to need these buildings if nobody's allowed to work from home anymore, right? I mean, it's just fucking dumb. Like, this is how lazy this shit is. So lease termination ends the 1st of February, 2026. Oh, so they got a year. Jesus Christ, I thought that said 25. I beg your pardon. So they got a whole year, and the annual lease cost will be this. The total savings is $1.2 million. Based on what? If they got to move to another building, what are they downsizing? The lease cost $900,000. You're saving $1.2 million. But they've got to be somewhere. So obviously, why are you saving more than you were paying out entirely? One would think that if the annual lease cost is $900,000, let's say they have a space that's too big for what they want or the size of it or whatever, and so they only need a third the space, so they're squeezing down the other end of it. You wouldn't save more than you actually had as far as the lease cost. You would have, I would presume, unless this is temporary. And again, the government does a bunch of these temporary things all the time. And they end the lease based on when the cycle is out. So more than likely, for example, this Department of Justice building that they're talking about, that since there's fucking zero details, you can pretty much assume that this was probably a temporary thing set up to deal with migrant court cases, and instead of doing them all in Florida and all kinds of places like that, they had to spread them around the country. So one of them was in the area where the Department of Justice would set up a branch in Kansas City to deal with a lot of these, like just overage or some major case that they're dealing with there. And then as soon as that's done, they pack up and go, and it happens on a cycle all the time. What was that? Dragon Rider says they're not. Plus, they're not factoring in the cost of moving everything, all the equipment, reconnecting, starting up new services, new wiring that's already in place in the existing building. You're absolutely right. And the secondary security, like, it's just silly. This is a prime example. All of these look like this. The Doge site is a fucking joke, and eventually, Republicans, when they start bitching in red states about how the costs are affecting them, then you're going to start having them look back and go, "Where's all this money we saved?" And what are you going to find out? That they didn't actually save anything, or that they dumped this back. Okay, here we go. So here's they terminated a lease on a building that goes into effect in May. The annual lease cost is $2.4 million. The total savings would be $2,060,000 in Atlanta, Georgia, for the Department of Health and Human Services. Now, when the Department of Health and Human Services shuts down a building, what do you think the chances are that the impact on the locals, especially a building of this size, and again, if you're making people work, people worked from home and it was on the cheap, you had this building empty, essentially. This would be the theory, if I'm being very generous. If you had this building that was basically empty because everybody's working from home. Now you're insisting they don't work from home anymore. They have to come in. So you're going to have to, like, buy or lease new facilities at a premium because you dumped the place you already had a contract on. Okay, so, and again, they don't even say. So here's a bunch of these things. A lot of what they got rid of was leased buildings. Stuff that was on the chopping block anyways, or that cycles out. So they're taking credit for stuff that would have ended, over time. Now, the vast majority of these things, you'll see a few big cities stand out. Miami, I would argue, obviously DC's buildings, they're doing a lot of those things. There's a Department of Labor building that they're shutting down because they want to fold it under something else, and yada yada. New York, obviously. But then you get these like Logan, West Virginia, and you get there's a Rehoboth Beach in Delaware. They're just mad at Biden or whatever for these three things: Department of Homeland Security and Department of Defense. That's them shutting down his security detail. and they have a little building there. It's like fucking nothing. 780,000, million five. That's what they're talking about. They're just like loosening security around Biden's house. Wilmington, yeah. Champaign, Illinois, Department of the Treasury building, shutting that down, whatever. Okay. None of these are like what this was for, what it was, what the value of it was. Okay. It's just this. True termination, agency closed office. Annual lease cost is $121,000. They're extrapolating that over 5 years or 6 years, including staff and other people. So fuck Topeka, Kansas, empty building, end of story. U.S. trustees in Dayton, Ohio. Mobile, the Army Corps of Civil Engineers in Mobile, Alabama. There's a $3 million building. This termination, true termination, agency direct lease. The annual lease cost $722. Total this payment, and this is on a bunch of these fucking things. This payment assumes a 5-year continuation of the lease, which may, by the way, have been part of the contract, but might not have been. Let's deal with that fact. Let's look at that real quick. This payment assumes a 5-year continuation of the lease. Well, why? Was it a guaranteed 5-year lease? Does the lease end in 5 years? Is there no reason for them to re-up it in 6? Right? No, they're just making it up. And so this might save you this year, but who says it was going to stick around? So this number's made up. The 3.6 million, fucking vaporware. They're just listing that as take anything we cancel and assume we're going to keep it for 5 years, and we'll take credit for the 5 years that it was going to be there. And again, this does not count the cost of moving or shutting down the office, the lack of services, the secondary cost elements of having the service or not having the service. It's just dumb. So there's a bunch of these like this. Albuquerque, New Mexico's got a bunch. It says true termination consolidation. So the annual lease cost is $67,000, total saving $330. Consolidation. Well, what does that mean? I mean, you're moving a couple of offices into one office. So you're not, if the lease is $67,000 because you got 2 offices and you put them together, you're not saving all of this. You're saving, if you're doing your job right, 40, right? Right? You cut it by 2/3. That makes it worth over time the cost of having the office there. So $330,000 vapor. This is all bullshit. Just fucking fantasy. And it gives this illusion that, the government just throws money. Okay, Columbus, Ohio, bankruptcy clerk, $7 million. True termination, move to federal space. So, in the private office of the bankruptcy clerk in Columbus, Ohio, will move into a federal office. So that lease is gone, but they will also be part of newly leased spaces or added to another building. Total cost $7.5. Okay, should we dig into one of these things? How about that one? Okay, let's just take a look while we're at it. Okay, let's see. Office bankruptcy, which is a very clerk, Columbus, Ohio, closing, I don't know, lease, something like that. Okay, I'll find it there. Doge website shows 2 Columbus leases canceled. That's WSYX. Put in here. Big Lots is laying off 500 corporate employees. I don't know why that's there. Big Lots going out of business. Why would that be a thing? Okay, so this would be here you go. This is the thing itself. Doge website shows 2 Columbus leases canceled. Doge site cuts in Columbus. This is the Doge website shows 2 Columbus. Department of Government Efficiency is set to cut leases on 2 federal office locations in Columbus, according to its website. The first location facing lease termination is a Social Security Administration office near Marble Cliff. This 4,000 square foot office, which includes a conference room, is not open to the public or seeking Social Security or those seeking Social Security assistance. Okay. It's just like a records keeping office. According to federal records, the government has leased this office since 2007 at a most recent annual cost of more than $81,000. Doge estimates the ending this lease will save over $405,000, equivalent to 5 years of rent. This lease was due to expire next year. What I tell you? I mean, I don't even have to fucking dig. I go literally. I might as well just fucking throw darts at a board with their cuts on it, and just assume the dart will land on bullshit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm good. I'm real good. But I mean, this is shooting ducks in a barrel. They're assuming 5 years savings on a lease that was going to end next year. It would expire next year. Now, what is this? What is it? What ultimately would have happened with it if they needed the office? What would have happened? The Ohio delegates would have tried to add to a House bill funding for that site because it was necessary for the population, and they would have added it or moved it to another place or re-upped it because it was valuable. Now they're just gonna, they're like, in a year they'll shut it down, and by the time people are bitching about the loss of services, we'll be through the 2026 midterms, and fuck them. So, okay. According to federal records, at least we rang the doorbell, but no one answered. A person who works the building told WSYX they can go weeks at a time without seeing anyone in or out of the office. The second location is the U.S. Bankruptcy Court Clerks building on High Street in downtown Columbus. The point being is that this lease is up next year because no one's using it. So they wouldn't have re-upped it anyways. So the idea that you're going to save 4 years on something that would have ended next year that nobody uses in the meantime is fucking dumb. And it started in 2007. And again, Ohio, another example of Ohio sucking on the giant federal teat at the expense of California and New York. Okay, the second location, the U.S. Bankruptcy Court Clerks building on High Street in downtown Columbus. A spokesman told me she had no knowledge of the cancellation of the lease, but said the court is open and doing business, and then hung up. The government has leased 61,371 square foot space since 2005, with an annual rent exceeding $1.5 million. Ending this lease projected to save $7.5 million over 5 years. This lease was also set to expire next year. God damn. This lease was also set to expire next year. Come on. Make me work for it at least a little. The Doge website indicates the bankruptcy court lease cancellation is a true termination, move to federal space, though details on the new location and timeline remain unclear because they don't have a plan to do it. Assholes. Okay. Big question is, how do we find more about this? There's no one for members of the media to contact on the Doge website. We also reached out to both Ohio's U.S. senators for comments. Neither Bernie Moreno or John Husted answered before this report was filed. We did receive a statement from Senator Husted late Thursday evening. It reads, the senator's office has not been briefed by the administration, so we do not have an update at this time. Well, all those little coffee shops and shit around the bankruptcy office and stuff that was kept afloat by all the traffic in and out of that fucking place, and people dealing with medical bills piling up or dissolving companies, all that kind of shit. Poof! You know what? Just move that fucking court down to Cincinnati, where everybody wants the seat of power to be anyways. It's only a couple hours drive, asshole. If you got to declare bankruptcy, it's not something you do a lot in your life. So who gives a shit if you have to drive, 4 hours to do it? That's the thought. Doge is going through the cities of the United States, cutting fat from cities that it doesn't think are necessary. Toledo's probation court, true termination, moved to federal space. Doesn't say where, doesn't say how much. Annual leasing costs for the probation guys, $146,733. Total savings, $733,665. If they just evaporate, if they never have another office, there's no one at the probation office at all, they just don't exist, then poof. Right, there you go. Let's see. National Archives Centers, of course, in Hoffman Estates. They're just going to kill funding for that because fuck the National Archives. Trump has a wild hair up his ass. Defense Contract Management Agency for National Defense, Buffalo, New York, $2 million. There you go. True termination consolidation. They're going to move them together, but the cost of the consolidation isn't there. Total annual lease cost $548,800. $896. This payment assumes a 5-year continuation of the lease. All of these are going to say that. That's where they're jacking this number up. This is all accounting bullshit. Why do they rent such expensive buildings? There's a bunch of reasons, actually, Angry Funny Mom. It's a great question. Some of it is the area. Other parts of it are security. Other elements of it is that they are, federal or state buildings, and they help keep the local government afloat by renting pieces of the local state government's offices. And the local state government jacks up the cost of that so they can milk the federal dollars. A lot of red states do that. A lot of red states, guess what? We all know how they get, more education funding, than they give. We know that they get a lot of disaster aid, certainly more money from disaster aid than they could ever even think to give. But one of the other ways that they attach themselves to the federal areola is that they have like a downtown office building that's a state building that they've used for a long time. Pretty significant multi-story building. They look very official, okay? And what they'll do is they'll rent 3 or 4 floors of that building to federal offices for the local area at a relatively jacked up price, and the state gets that rent from the federal government as an extra little wink subsidy. Now, there's all sorts of benefits to those buildings. Courthouses obviously have great security. They have to, because people are fucking insane. They've got metal detectors and security guards. They're oftentimes attached to a police department. Oftentimes there will be like the Cleveland Federal Building has a gun range inside, so that not only the U.S. Marshals that are there, but the judges themselves can do shooting practice for their own safety and whatnot. The judges in those areas, like in a bankruptcy court sometimes, you have this building where there's a secure entrance that you drive through like multiple barriers to get inside, because people who, had their bankruptcy shit tossed out or were trying to crime their way through stuff get a wild hair up their ass and decide they want to kill the judge. So you need a lot of extra security. That's why those buildings are expensive in general. That's one of the big reasons. Sometimes they just overpay, but they're always pulling those back. I love this one. Washington, D.C., multiple. True termination, move to federal space. Okay. What federal space? And by the way, 2.5 million. This might be the offices for USAID that they're going to put under the State Department and say move to federal space, even though they don't have the offices at the State Department. What are you going to do? Just make the State Department budget go up? It's just a fucking shuffle. This doesn't magically go away. This payment assumes a 5-year continuation of the lease, too. And it doesn't even say what it is. It just says multiple. Yeah, here's the Department of Homeland Security Office for the Undersecretary of Management. 2.7 million. They're going to assume 13 million. This payment is a 5-year continuation assumption. True termination, move to federal space. They're moving them into the other office space. They're consolidating office space. That office does not become rent-free now. Federal Trade Commission in Atlanta, shutting that down. Federal Trade Commission. Oh, look at this. The Federal Trade Commission, Washington, D.C., 259,130. Savings, 0. True termination, lease backfill. Okay, so you canceled the lease, and to cancel the lease, they had to pay $11 million. They didn't save shit. As a matter of fact, you arguably don't get the space anymore, and you're in the hole. If Elon is finding all this money, then why the $3 trillion budget? The budget is not $3 trillion. The U.S. government's budget is somewhere between $6 and $7 trillion. It's got a $2 trillion deficit. It goes in the hole every year, $2 trillion. Now, a lot of that has to do with leftover shit from Trump's tax cut and from COVID and other stuff. But you're not going to make a dent in $1 trillion with all this bullshit, with these fabricated fucking numbers. It's a farce. And look, maggots, feel free. Jump in anytime and explain to me how this extrapolation for a building in Washington, D.C. that just says you're going to move federal offices to a federal space. The lease cost is listed as $2.5 million. It's going to save you 12 if you assume the termination or the payment assumes a 5-year continuation of the lease when it was going to terminate next year anyways. Over and again, there is not a single billion-dollar saving in any of this shit. The contracts, okay, Commodity Futures Trading Commission. Here you go. You want to see some big savings, kids? How about this? West Publishing Corporation. Renew West Publishing subscriptions for various legal titles for 8 different accounts in every CFTC location. So basically, the people who work in the consumer financial like services or in the Federal Trade Commission are going to have to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal on their own out of their own pocket. That's and anybody I mean, this is fucking embarrassing. Like, if you list this as part of your savings, $21,000, and what are you paying for? Ignorance for the people that work at that thing or having to pay out of their own paycheck? Just dumb. So, and subscriptions, quote, for various legal titles for 8 different accounts in every CFTC location. So they have access to all that. Oh, let's look at this. This is the contract, by the way. They list all these. And this is the part that drove me fucking crazy. This is the thing that they're putting up here. This, like, what the contract was, how much it was for. Action obligation, $21,382.14. Base and exercise options value, there it is. Base and all options value, that's the part, okay. Contract agency, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission has this. Where is its office? There it goes. There you go. Principal costs and where it's, okay. This is it. What's it for? Newspapers and periodicals, internet publishing and broadcasting and web searching on the listed stuff. That's it. This is all the detail you get about what that was for, why it was necessary, why it was paid for, why it had been kept, all this kind of stuff. So I'm sorry, but you don't get points for getting rid of something with such a vague description any more than you can excuse it for being paid on such a vague description. Here's what I would suggest in the future, everybody, is have somebody on your staff or use ChatGPT and get somebody to be a fucking asshole about the description of what you use in your office, why, and how often, and the secondary cost to everyone involved if you had to buy it, like retail instead of wholesale. Also, I gotta say, there is an argument for federal employees in all of these areas to get what would effectively either be a student discount kind of thing or a government free copy, because I mean, they send a fucking copy of it to the library. They should send a copy to all of these offices. Here's a good idea. Want to save yourself some fucking trouble in the future? Bloomberg and Reuters and all these guys? Don't charge the federal government for copies of your shit. Send a digital version of it that they can distribute to all of their employees, specifically for federal employees to look at and read and stuff and have access to your stuff. If you want them to consider your opinions worthwhile and stuff, doesn't cost you anything. So, oh, somebody was asking. That's funny. Hold on. Yeah, you want to see my shield? You want to see it? There's my shield. It's been a rough week. What do you want? So, yeah, I go. Let's see. Description of requirement. Renew West Print subscriptions for various legal titles for 8 different accounts in every CFTC location. That's where they copied it from. That's it. That's all you get to know. Okay, IDV type of set aside. No set aside used. So it's part of their regular budget. 21 grand. But congratulations. You're really making a fucking dent in that $1 trillion thing and in the $2 trillion deficit that the government has right now. Also, let's see more of these contracts, shall we? While we're digging into this stuff. Sure. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, they're trying to gut that. Oh, by the way, let's look at the contract value. Nothing. $9, $9, $25, $2, or is this $25,000? Hold on. Listen. Let me scroll over. Hold on. There we go. Hold on. $2,000. Stretch this out. It's interesting that you got this fucking Doge site. Here you go. All right, $21,000. That's for that one. $255 annual subscription to PolitiFact. Okay, that's this part. Total contract $255,863. Savings $60,000. You just killed the annual subscription during this cycle. That's all they did. They killed the last year of it. So during the Biden administration, they gave everybody a copy of this or something, or that's the argument, and then they just ended again, this subscription was set to terminate this year or some shit. Okay, so let's look at what this says. The Commodity Futures and Trading Commission has a subscription to private publications. Newspapers and periodicals and newspaper publishers. They read everything to keep up on it. This is so fucking dumb. That's all this is. Annual subscription. Bloomberg Terminal. They're just killing all these sites. Washington Post subscriptions. Wall Street Journal subscriptions. By the way, there you go. $216,000 contract. They saved $176,000. They killed the Wall Street Journal one. Dow Jones and Company Incorporated. What? Oh, okay. Why that? Let's see a view on that. Because I thought Rupert Murdoch owned that motherfucker. There we go. Let's scroll down to here. Newspapers and periodicals. That's what there's. Newspaper publishers is the description for this. The action does this. Wall Street Journal subscription. That's what it's for. There you go. That's a subsidy that was going to Rupert Murdoch. Done. And what the fuck for? What are you doing? Okay, so here's the Department of Agriculture. Let's look at this. Diversity, equity, inclusion. That's by the way, this is the vast majority of what they're cutting. K.L. Scott and Associates LLC, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility assessment and training services. And this is their drag on this. And the contracts on these things. Hold on. This Peachtree is in Atlanta. Okay. Terminate for convenience, complete or partial, which is what happens in every administration. They do this for stuff that they don't want to pay, and if they're trying to shuffle their priorities. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility DEIA assessment and training services. Support professional program management, support administrative management, and general management services. They just list, and again, I don't even know if this is in the contract itself. This is just how they listed it. Must be DEI. It's in Atlanta. It's got to be black people, right? That's the assumption. Connecting office agency review, food and nutrition services. Right. Okay. SNAP diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. $414,000. And accessibility assessment and training. There you go, to make sure people can deal with people who are poor and less educated, and starving. Yeah. Let's go. Let's see. Boy, the Department of Agriculture is handing out fucking money. USD Office of Property. Let's see. 14 grand. There you go. There's the real shit. How about this? $79,000 for this. Yeah, there you go. How about this? Okay. EEO support services, 18-month base period effective. 20. Let's take a look at this. What was this for? This is here's your big money. This is $1.9 million. Action obligation was $538,000, and the base and excise option value is $538,000. So all together, so that's whether they've done the whole program or not is anybody's guess, but this would be it. EEO support services, 18-month base period effective September 23rd, 2022 through March 2024. So it was already out the door, it was already paid, and it was over. Fee paid as of this. Yeah, terminate of convenience. Last modified 123.25. Prepared award type BPA call. Award status final. Closed status no. David Keene USDA. Closed approved by David Keene. Okay, so that's who closed it down. Office of Inspector General. There we go. Support professional other human resources consulting services, human resources 2007. And then human resources executive consulting services 2002. So it's over. So the first payment was in 2002 and the second payment was in 2007. So who the fuck thinks these guys saved this money? They shut down the contract, but the contract was already over and paid. But they're responsible for saving $1.4 million of it in the total contract, which was 1.9, which was already paid out in this situation, right? There's the full aspect of this, whatever. Yeah, it's just a shit ton of this. The environmental, there you go. Management and Engineering Technologies International for environmental regulation compliance, subject matter expert services for a Forest Service. So this is one of Trump's guys who was paid to go tell him to sweep up the floor of the forest. Be strong, don't eat junk food. I won't, don't worry. Yeah, this is all bullshit. By the way, look, notice it says savings 0. There's a ton of those. But they'll list $80,000 as the primary amount when you look at it. AV equipment, let's see. Audiovisual equipment and services for the Chiefs Equity Summit in Kansas, which I think happened already. So you don't get to save money. It was already fucking spent years ago. What is this? Fuck is this? I'm dead serious. Like, how would you not be embarrassed to add this to the fucking list? Anybody? Look, I'm all for being made wrong. Oh, yeah, they were doling this out all the time. Well, then why would you put 0 in savings if they were paying this every year for something that had happened a long time ago? And if it happened before Trump came into office, how are you getting credit for getting rid of something that doesn't exist anymore? Dipshit. Yeah, so this is the, and by the way, Doge wants you, all the guys there, want you to be like, oh, fuck, man, look at all the work they're doing. Because if you scroll through this, it looks like a lot, doesn't it? Look, the Department of Education, they just canceled everything outright. And in canceling out here's what they did. This is clear what they did. They went through and they took every contract the Department of Education did. They put a temporary hold on it or cut the funding entirely if it was in the discretionary realm. And then they want credit for everything that was on the books because they're taking away the DEA, or the Department of Education, rather, DOE. They're taking away their existence. So they want credit for everything that's not going out or hasn't gone out or won't go out or is on the books to have gone out because of the Department of Education, even if that thing was paid 7 fucking years ago. That's what they're doing. They're not even doing the fucking work to like go through everything in the Department of Education and go, okay, here's all the stuff we've killed that, started under Biden and is ongoing, and we're just going to stop it, right? That's where you would, that would be the low-hanging fruit, the easy way of doing this. They're not even doing that work. What they're doing is they're putting everything in the USAID on the chopping block, everything in the Department of Education on the chopping block. They're going after everything signed to go out as a contract to the Department of Agriculture and all these other things in the short term, saying we're putting a pause on all of it, and then they want credit for everything that was on the books beforehand, and they're not even checking to see whether that was temporary, already paid, was emergency services, is necessary to continue, or was going to get, evaporate on its own. Headed to job tomorrow. This is so Hal can house it. Oh, well, thank you. I'll do my best, Rocky Mountain Mike. Please don't forget to stock the fridge. All I need is some 80-20 ground beef and a couple eggs, baby. That's all I need. And if you got the fixins for sun tea, I'll make it myself. All right. This is what they did. They just took entire departments, and they want, see this? Department of Health and Human Services. They throw in the Politico shit or whatever, but then they go through and they just canceled all those things. Here's equal employment opportunity strategic support services. So anybody who would call and complain that they were fired because they were a black or a woman or something like that, that exists as part of their HR. They just killed it. And they froze the entire department, so they're assuming it gets... Here's what happens. 18 million is what you think the total contract for this company is, who takes care of it for them. They move it into the federal government, and then somebody sues because they were wrongfully terminated. And instead of suing Suntiva LLC, which was firewalled from the federal government, the taxpayer now will go on the hook for whatever that person sues for. Let's just say they sue for $25 million and they win. What do you think the savings are then? It's one of the and by the way, I'd like to remind everybody that it's the Republican Party who's always talking about how the federal government can't do anything right. It's the private sector that knows how to do things. And so they've been wanting to outsource shit to the private sector all this time. And yet, if the private sector signs a contract with the government, these motherfuckers are like, I don't even want to pay it. Trump was even talking about jerry-rigging his fucking contract so he doesn't end up having to pay it. Like, choking off the vendors. Why would one of the biggest payers of note, the American taxpayer, be able to put together a contract with somebody where the taxpayer saves a bunch of money because they're buying in bulk from some private organization? It's the biggest contract they've ever had, so they're willing to take it on. If somebody like Trump's going to come through and just scuttle the fucking contract anytime now. Here's what I would say. Private contractors are going to go administration by administration now. And they're going to be more expensive. And the only way tell you what, if you sign us up, you've got 3 more years of your presidency for this contract. We want to be front loaded what would effectively be a quarter or a third of the next cycle. We want, if it's a $250,000 contract for the next 3 years to the end of your presidency, we're going to want, normally that's how much we would charge you, but we're going to charge you $420 because we need an extra amount to roll over in case you cancel it in the middle of us doing a fucking work cycle. Because we can't trust that some dipshit won't roll in here and just hate what you're doing. Why would we go out on a limb like this if we're going to cut you a deal? Or we just fucking pay retail, asshole. That's what they're going to end up doing. So this whole thing, this is just them freezing entire departments. That's what this is. There you go. Department of Homeland Security. Fuck that stuff, right? New GSA FSS order. Let's see. For CSA campaign support. Well, let's see what that is. Let's grab this real quick. Copy that. And we're going to go in here, and we'll throw this in here, and we'll go paste. Okay. Oh, yeah, if you see something, say something. That's what this is for. That's payment for see something, say something. So Doge is cutting money on the see something, say something program. Because I guess fuck everybody? Is that the idea? For CISA, yeah. Okay, for campaign support. To get people to, if you see something, say something. They're going to cut the contract. It was 2.7 million. They're going to cut it, and it's going to be 1.7 with whatever this company is, because this company was in charge of doing these things. Now, let me tell you something. This money's going to go out the door. This money, I don't know who ECU Communications is, but I'm going to guess that Trump's team feels like they got the job because they were black or Native American or women or gay or something like that. So they cut that thing, and then they're going to hand out they're going to, in the name of meritocracy, hand it out to friends of Elon Musk. That's what's happening. So should we look them up too? Let's look up. These guys just lost a little contract for the see something, say something. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I don't want that. I want the name of the company, silly. Here we go. This ECU Communications LLC. What do you think? What do you think is going to be the big drag on why these assholes think it should be that? Full service marketing agency, ECU Communications. There we go. There's our portfolio. This is what ECU Communications does. I don't know what the E and the C and the U. They're taking a while for their page to start. There you go. There you go. Celebrating 20 years of success, we combine focused strategic thinking with revealing creative solutions to cut through the clutter and get results. Our 1-2 punch approach. Get closer. There you go. Probably, I would guess that Doge saw this picture, saw two white guys getting sidelined by the two afros and the lady, and are like, fuck this. Hire a bunch of guys that look like us, blue suiters. Okay, brand development, digital marketing, media planning, buying. Okay, there's this contract for doing this. They work for the Department of Homeland Security and the Census. So they do a lot of these kind of things. They do a lot of outreach for law enforcement and that kind of stuff. They're award winning. Let's say they're strategic communications, digital marketing, brand development, talent acquisition. I can't even click on the portfolio. U.S. Department of State, Marshal Service, National Park Service, U.S. Service, Census Bureau. So obviously, people in there feel like it works. And their office is in Manassas, in Virginia. It's close by, and in Vienna, Virginia. So they're close to D.C., I guess, because they mainly, it seems, focus on promoting government stuff. Let's see, public sector, private sector. There you go, two of them. Their practice areas. In the public sector, what do? Let's see, shall we? We specialize in developing custom solutions in line with your agency's values. So the NAICS codes, this is for who they work with. This is under your billing. This is what you would put on their thing. The kind of stuff that they do for your company. If you have a code like this for payment to do these kind of things, if you do motion picture and video production, and your agency does a video on like, hey, if you see something, say something, you can hire their agency to produce it, and that's how you would code. They're all licensed to be able to work as vendors under the government. There you go. And this would be why they got dropped. There you go. This is exactly why. Have we had a failure of see something, say something? No, we have not. There you go. SWAM, small, women, and minority owned. There's the SWAMmy. Supplier diversity strengthens Commonwealth, Virginia Department of Small Business and Supplier Diversity. They're on that list. So they did a cross-cull of that list, and that's why they don't like them. That's exactly it. They just saw that they were a minority-owned company and they must have gotten it because of DEI, and they kicked them to the curb. They canceled their, yeah. How about D&G Support Services LLC, $1.6 million. Program and technical support services for Office of Diversity and Civil Rights. So, and again, savings of zero. They just paid the contract out and told everybody to go home. They just don't want them around. Didn't save a dime. OCFO, PA&E Evaluation Services Multiple Award Blanket Purchase Agreement for Optimal Solutions Group LLC. Let me guess. This is a $30 million account. Let's look at it. What was it for? Let's see. View on this FCPT. I hope I'm not boring you guys with this stuff, but I think it's kind of important to dig into these things. So you see that this is all, for all the maggots that show up, I want you guys to see what a fucking farce Doge is. The purpose of this modification is partially terminate the blanket purchase agreement to remove all language and ending rendering of services to diversity, equity, and inclusion effective immediately. Okay, so they still have their contract. They just have to take out the language that's what they were there for. That's so fucking funny. Just gross. Support, professional, other, administrative management, general management. The purpose of this modification is partially terminate the blanket purchase agreement to remove all language. So all they did was change the language of it took out any inclusive language in the contract. What was the savings on this one? It says $30 million. Doesn't say anything in terms of savings. That's just the cost of it. So that's $30 million just going out the door. So what was the cost of modifying the agreement legally? I'm going to guess that cost something. It wasn't zero. Right? So, I mean, they made the price go up. Maybe not a lot. Maybe a couple $1,000s. Huh? Yeah, exactly, Susie. If not me, who? Let's be abundantly clear. This is important. Everybody's watching this. Doge took this contract for $30 million and made the price go up. And all they did was have them modify the contract to remove any information about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the contract language. They're going to pay it. They're going to keep the company online, still going to do their fucking job. The difference is they had some government lawyers or somebody in government, which is obviously on the federal tit right now. They're drawing a paycheck from you and I, so it wasn't free. They took those people away from whatever they were working on and had them spend time dealing with the legal implications of changing a contract and added to this. What was it? Now is it 30 million, 15,000? Something like that? At the end of the day? Because this company will, I guess, get to bill their legal services because they didn't do anything wrong. They had a contract. You wanted to change the terms of the contract after it was signed. Now, maybe they were afraid to lose the contract, so they did it gratis. But still, like again, government employees don't work for free. Doge didn't come in and like do the legal writing on this gratis. And if they did, I'd like to see how that's not a contribution in kind or considered a bribe because they are paying for government services in line with what the administration wants of them. Right? But the price of this went up, not down. And it's certainly, you'll notice, it's $30 million savings. Right? All the rest of them say savings. Why do they say savings? Because they terminated the contract or they cut it in half or whatever. Right? There you go. And it's all like this. This is all, yeah. And by the way, HUD's fucked. Just to understand that. Franklin Covey, client sales. Oh, they're going to attack Franklin Covey. The program to get people back on their feet from Franklin Covey. Training materials, Franklin Covey, all access pass, and Franklin Covey training consultant days. Like that's a right-wing thing. That's a welfare to work thing. That is money doled out. Franklin Covey is a friend of the Republican Party. I'm not even against Franklin Covey, but I'm here to tell you. Covey training. Let's just show you what I mean there. Yeah, here you go. Greatness starts here. Wow, what a weird video. Hold on. It's so funny, being here. Franklin Covey, greatness starts here. Hello. I got to say, these like the HTML people just kind of like, hey, I used to suck, but now I'm a leader. Develop your leaders, improve individual effectiveness, building a winning culture, achieve breakthrough results. I mean, first of all, team building stuff from places like Franklin Covey are used across all like governmental agencies and private sector stuff all the time. They do team building exercises and send people to these like, gatherings. But Franklin Covey's always been a very Christian leaning organization, right? So they're, I mean, I wouldn't doubt, I'm here, where are they located? Is their office in Ohio? I want to say they have let's see, contact us. Where's their primary? I don't know what your global locations. Where are you? That's your thing right here. All right, we'll go with their global locations. The Americas. They're everywhere. USA. Salt Lake City, Utah. There it is. I was close. Salt Lake City, Utah. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Does that sound like South side of Chicago community development crowd getting a contract. Now, granted, I don't know that. I think Franklin Covey would like to argue meritocracy for the reasons that they are getting some of this money. But, however, most of this stuff, and you guys know that. Maybe you don't. I don't know. I have a real thing for self-help stuff. I've read all of it. I've absorbed a stupid amount of self-help material over the years, and some of it, this might shock you, has helped. And Johnny Million will attest to this. In high school, I read How to Win Friends and Influence People, Art of the Deal. Or was it? No, that was in 91 or something. I think somebody gave me a copy of that. It was just fucking stupid. I read 3 chapters like, this is fucking dumb. Dianetics. Remember when that was on TV? Read the whole thing. Had one of my first like grown-up stand-up bits that I was doing when I was 17 years old was about Dianetics. Because it's such a fucking dumb book. It's amazingly dumb. If the first 3 chapters are like him cribbing shit about brain chemistry and dopamine and all that kind of stuff, and reflexive reactions in your sort of NLP level stuff. And then the rest of the book, he pats himself on the back for stealing other people's works. And here's the sign of a bad book. You want to know what the biggest signs of a bad book is, especially in self-help or something like that, is when they quote themselves in later chapters. As I said in chapter 2, right? If they do that, it's a shit book. It's shit. I read The Secret. That wasn't that long ago though. The Secret was on, I want to say 2001 or 2. I'm on Oprah's episode of The Secret. I wanted to meet Oprah. It worked. That's true though. But I've read a ton of that stuff, RFK kind of stuff. No, I don't know what he's read. Whatever. Anyways, I've read a shit ton. Here, I'll show you one of the. I think I have a book that. Let's see what. Hold on. It's behind my green screen. Pardon me. Don't judge me. Let's see this one. I'll show you an old copy of this one, and I think some of my ones are in the other room because I actually do leaf through them. I have a bunch of them upstairs. Like I have. I've got Meditations by Marcus Aurelius upstairs, and like next, I have this old player piano I bought from an ex-girlfriend that she needed to move and get rid of it, and so I paid her $700 because it would have been more expensive for her to. Never mind. Anyway, I still have it. It's great. And so I'm like, hey, I have a room with a piano, and I'm very grown up now, you know. Anyways, so I have that book up in that room, and I sit on the couch up there, and I read Marcus Aurelius, or I'll read Morals and Dogma, or I'll read any number of stuff, whatever. Anyway, so I have this copy of Think and Grow Rich I've had for a long time, the old-fashioned like gold leaf copy of it or whatever. I find it very useful, and there's a lot of good stuff in these things. Like you don't have to, you take a ton of it with a grain of salt, but sometimes you just need to thumb to the right thing and go, today's the day you get off your ass, son, right? And that's okay. I'm all for it. It's totally great. Like, use them and don't be afraid to use them because everybody needs a shot in the arm. And my feeling has been, and this is a thing about you're losing track of your age at this point. Well, it doesn't matter, Carla. Can I tell you something about age real quick? I just saw this video about Prince being interviewed about how he doesn't celebrate birthdays because you only had one birthday. You were born, and he was like, since I don't count birthdays because I was only born once, so I don't count the days. So that's why I look this good. Like he was basically saying he doesn't age like everybody else, right? Because he doesn't count birthdays, and there might be something to that. So, anyways, he, where was I? Oh, yeah. So, anyways, any of these books, like, take something from it. If it helps you, chuck it, right? And lately, I've been, like, studying up on Prince's, like, work ethic and how he did, because I'm a huge Prince fan, and I like, just thinking he's dead just breaks my fucking heart. Just like, it just sucks. Should the USPS be privatized? No. Yeah, he was also Jehovah's Witness, which I would argue is what killed him, more than even the painkillers. Because if he'd have been able to have surgery like he needed and all this, it was whatever. Anyways, point being, I just, when he, every so often, I'll pass something in my house, a picture of, Prince or an album cover I have up, and I'll go, God damn it, just makes me swear. Anything, I'm sure some of you have that, where I'm like, God damn it. And in looking at like how he did things, I've been very inspired lately by how he went about carrying out his art, right? And if Prince had written a book about how to better yourself, I'd have fucking injected it into my goddamn veins, especially when it comes to, you felt like that when Neil Peart passed. Yeah, I agree. He was older, though. I mean, Prince, I would argue, young. He would have been 60-something this year. So, point being is that there's something to be learned from all these these folks. And if there were some people who'd written these books, I would have been like, why can't you tell me how to do your thing? I would have loved to have listened to that. I would have loved to have known that thing. And nowadays, everybody can, thank God, there are interviews and stuff that people can catch up on that. And so lately, I've been like looking into his process for inspiration, and therefore, and the stuff he found, he was a very faith-based guy. Believed in God. He believed that God was the source of his inspiration. He believed that it went through him, and that he just got out of the way and felt it and didn't, 67. God damn it. Rough. So, anyways, he felt those things. And so when there's like a Franklin Covey in the world, and they do their shit based on religious beliefs, or they're, rudimentarily, a rudimentary version of like Christianity is infused in what they do, I don't begrudge them that shit at all. You know what I mean? I don't begrudge anybody the faith that keeps them on their feet. Does that make sense? I will never hold that against it. Whatever you do to keep yourself moving forward, as long as it doesn't take more than it gives, which is always the trick. I will never begrudge that for you. And by the way, hold on. I don't want to, hold on. Derp Jenkins. Tulips at onmyorgan.com. They're making me fill out a form to show you something. Chief. Oh shit! I'll just show you. Fill this. I do this all the time. Organization. Total lack. Lack of. That's the name of my organization. Number of employees, 1 to 500. Zip postal code. I'll just go to straight Kentucky. 40201. Country, United States. I would like, sure, send emails to tulips@onmyorgan.com. No. Okay, submit. And then let's see. Okay, so to look at this, I had to fill out all that shit. All right, anyways. It's adorable. Okay, so this is the big book that Franklin Covey is known for. Sorry, Celeste, I always put in some stupid email address that if you read it will make someone laugh. Okay? That book actually changed your life? That's great, Water Goddess. And again, I don't begrudge anyone having read. I read this book, right? And I agree with a lot of the principles in it. There's definitely, again, it's infused with this kind of the Christianity of the person who wrote it at the time, and this is the brief guide to it. This isn't the actual book or whatever. But here you go. Here's your habits. Be proactive. Sure. Okay. Begin with the end in mind. That's what Prince did. He was a finisher. Put first things first. And again, you got to categorize and break stuff down. Yep, Stephen Covey did this. The time matrix. Okay. Build habits of interpersonal effectiveness. Okay. Think win-win. How does this serve me and how does this serve the other person? I don't have a problem with this at all. Yes, and step 5, you've got to purify yourself in the lake of in Lake Minnetonka, the waters of Lake Minnetonka. That ain't Lake Minnetonka. And 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Not a bad thing, right? These aren't evil ideas. Synergize, work with other people, try to build a team, right? Build trust. And then build a pattern of self-renewal. Take care of yourselves. That'd be your mental health and making sure you're relaxing and you get enough sleep and shit like that. Sharpen the saw, which means make yourself better all the time. And there you go. There it is. The sharpen the saw means you got to keep your skills up. Always be improving. Okay, I don't have a problem with this. But Doge thought it was important that this shit be cut from the budget. Now, let me slow this back over here. So, HUD decided that to help people inside this thing, let's see, where was it was in this one. Let's scroll down through here. In this stuff, they discovered that, like, hey, maybe, we can help people train themselves, get better. And instead of creating a government program to, get on your feet, soldier, from Uncle Sam, they decided, hey, we'll outsource this to a company in Salt Lake City that's, known in these Christian right-wing circles as being on the up and up. And we'll hand their book out to people. And maybe we'll save ourselves a shit ton of money if it works on these folks. And then if they want to go and train in this stuff and become better and become a useful member of their community, awesome. And Musk's crowd says, fuck that. Okay. Better up, because they think it will help black people get a step up, apparently. Here's the Department of Housing and Urban Developments. This is to improve HUD's strategic approach for the HUD forward initiatives, including meeting requirements outlined in various executive orders, policies, and directives. So this happens every time. Here's another thing. He wants credit for Doge doing something amazing. Doge. One of you Doge fuckers has to see this at some point. You chintzy little prick. Get interviewed. Come on here. I would love to talk to anybody from the Doge team. I want to hear you. I want to talk to you directly. And I've only got a couple of questions. The first one being, what the fuck do you think you're doing? And I mean that literally. What the fuck do you think you're doing? Explain this shit to me. Because not only is it not working, on a bunch of fronts, it looks like you're just bullshitting. So, where are you, Doge boys? I want to talk to one of the Doge bags. Let's do it. So, Ernst & Young LLP. Let's see, to prove it. Okay, let's look at Ernst & Young. They had a $2.9 million contract. They saved 1.9 because they killed this thing or whatever. So, what do? Let's see. We'll paste and go. There we go. Ernst & Young. Shape the future with confidence. I decline the optional cookies. All right, where are we? I guess we'll look in Nevada, shall we? Where are we? There you go. Las Vegas. Fantastic. Look, they've got an Ernst & Young right here. Get directions. Okay, what do? There you go. Consulting, people in workforce, transaction and corporate finance, assurance, tax, EY private, legal. Okay, so basically they help people get on their feet. Look, a spotlight on artificial intelligence. Look at this. Ernst & Young's AI Insights. They probably did an article that says Doge or Grok sucks, which it does. AI Pulse, December 2024. Here's how people are feeling about this shit. Building confidence, how global business leaders can harness the power of Gen AI. Here's an article on this. Creating value for people, how AI can drive advantage in transport and infrastructure, augmenting people, the AI movement, how business can be ready for their workforce. Okay, so this is stuff they do on their own, and apparently Doge, they had a contract in some areas to either improve HUD's strategic approach for HUD forward initiatives, including meeting these. Okay, so all the stuff that would implement Trump's HUD-related executive orders, if he has any, other than let the black guy run it, which is effectively all he gives a shit about in terms of HUD. Any thing they might have helped with that, just fucking out the window. Enterprise solution for research subscription services renewal. They didn't save anything. They just paid it off and ended it. Here's the Department of Labor, which they don't believe it should exist at all. Again, notice they're not listing the money amounts on any of these things. Here you go, $2.6 million, ICF Incorporated LLC. The purpose of this effort is to award a task order for EDC 7, integrating greenhouse gas assessment and reduction targets in transportation planning. Okay, so this is a Green New Deal cut. So 2.6 was the contract. They saved 661 on this one by ending it. The damage that they've done to the environment, priceless. How about the Treasury? There you go. Enterprise Digital Access. New York Times. Okay, so the Treasury people have these subscriptions as well. Politico. Right. So they're killing all these kind of things. They're listing them on different organizations, as if the federal government doesn't give everybody access to these kind of things at a cheap price. Whatever. Treasury Administrative Server. There you go. Here's the real ones. Beta Associates, $8,537. What does Beta Associates do for $8,000? Shall we find out? It's fucking lazy, stupid shit. Maggots, I'm not impressed at all. This is a map. I don't know why I'm mapping to this place. Better, getting. Uh-oh, it's got a butterfly. It's multiple. It's got a BET in it. It's got a black something. Uh-oh. That's what it is. Beta communications transform. Empowering success through communication. This is like, all right, yep. You start to get a feeling for why they freaked out and wanted this cut. All $8,000 of it. As am I, Paul Young. Empowering success through innovative excellence. See this part? This is the part where you're being a white asshole. Oh, that's nice. You're being a rugged bitch. Why don't you just shut the fuck up? Can we just do the job here? This is fine. Oh, we're working on our communication skills. You are. Fuck this. Fuck. You want to get a drink? Yeah, I do, actually. I don't know why you gotta talk to me like that. It's just getting me all worked up. Smack that ass. I'm gonna smack that ass. You know what? Can we just skip straight to the silver anniversary? This is going really well. This business meeting is the best date I've ever had. All right. Strong communities together. Obviously, childless cat lady, lesbian, non-racial couple things, right? This is what they're doing. Okay. Select clients. Administration on community living. Community activists. You should have. National Institute of Health. Obviously, Office of Infectious Disease and HIV/AIDS policy. So obviously, they want us to all die of an infectious disease. Beta has solved the problem, make things better approach is one of the key factors that allow us to accomplish what we do in a tiny team. We're so grateful to have them on the ACL team. Administration for Community Living loves them. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Yeah, that's why they cut $8,000 from this one thing. Okay, why this? Family owned, probably some anti-nuclear family lesbian collective, and they call themselves a family. Bullshit! Right, there's the business certificate. This is what they do. There you go. BPA and ID contract vehicles. Okay, yeah. So that's what this is. They're Bethesda, and they're in Maryland too, right? So that's what's going on here. Just so you know, you're lost. Well, so am I. I don't know why Doge thinks killing an $8,537 contract because some black women have an organization that teaches communication skills. Is saving us money. You're sure house smells good? I do. I I'm pretty good. Tropic Thunder is the other what? Celery 2. Tropic Thunder is a great film, and I am always amazed at the idiots who are like, Robert Downey Jr. wears blackface in it. No, he doesn't. No, come here. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. You know, he's not wearing blackface. He's playing a character who is wearing blackface. Do you notice the difference?
A dude playing a dude disguised as another dude.
That's what that line means. I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. The whole movie is, they're all the butt of the joke. They're all assholes. That's the point. Downey's character is an asshole. Stiller's character is an asshole. Jack Black's character is an asshole. They're assholes. That's the thing. They're self-involved. It mocks Hollywood so much that I don't know why the fuck like maggots don't love it, right? The Les Grossman line. What is it? Little kids aren't dressing up as Scorcher for Purim anymore. That's a reference to the idea that Jews run the industry, right? That's the kind of jokes they're making in it. So the idea that he, like, anybody who's offended by Robert Downey Jr.'s character in it would, I guess, technically only be offended that someone is making the case that anybody who did that, dressed like that for a part and allowed themselves to do that or thought they had the right to do that, is an asshole. Anybody who would play a character pointing out that fact is somehow the bad guy. So white supremacists arguably would be the ones that would hate Robert Downey Jr. for being in that movie because he makes fun of people who would do blackface. See what I... Can ya? Blazing Saddles is not real. That's my other favorite one, Paul Young, is when people go like, you couldn't make Blazing Saddles today. Right-wingers love that one. You couldn't even make that movie today. Yeah, you could. It's called The Chappelle Show, and not only did they make it, they put it on basic fucking cable. Like, look at the sketches on The Chappelle Show. And I got news for you. You know who co-wrote Blazing Saddles with Mel Brooks? Richard Pryor. So a Jewish guy and a black dude write this movie together, making fun of racists, by the way. Because that's the whole movie, is like mocking the sort of the racism of how things used to be, specifically to their face, calling it out. Right. Yes, Richard Pryor co-wrote Blazing Saddles. He wrote all the Mongo lines. It was his favorite character. And what's the dude who co-wrote, hold on, Chappelle Show? Let's see. Neil Brennan. Yeah, Neil Brennan. A Jewish guy and a black guy wrote basically Blazing Saddles, the series, as Chappelle Show. That's what it is. Like, look at all the jokes in Chappelle Show and tell me a joke that's in Chappelle Show that wasn't in Blazing Saddles first. In some form or fashion. Right? There are variations on the theme, right? But the theme was, I mean, and again, Blazing Saddles was an R-rated movie in movie theaters that you couldn't watch from home. There wasn't even fucking video cassettes when that movie was a big deal. It was only seen by adults in a theater. It was borderline porn at that time, right? Chappelle Show's on basic fucking cable. So, and again, written by largely Dave Chappelle and Neil Brennan, and explain to me the demographic difference between that show and fucking Blazing Saddles. Almost none. Fuck, let's just go to stir crazy. Let's go to Gene Wilder, Jewish, wonderful, talented. Is that Joe Body? Show is wonderful. And Richard Pryor together making comedy. And everybody going, you couldn't even do that today. Yes, you could. Because they meant well and they were making fun of the right people. If you did the fucking, if you wrote the bathroom scene in Silver Streak today, where Gene Wilder does blackface to sneak through because it's Richard Pryor's idea. If you did that scene today, it would be identical. You couldn't make it any better. You could only fuck it up. You could only make it worse. You would only just like screw up the entire concept by being too generous to assholes who don't get it. Yeah, dude, watch it, Anthony Jeselnik. Anthony Jeselnik, I have a theory that Jeselnik, you know how like Bobcat Goldthwait has a character and like, I don't know, who else? Like Emo Phillips has a character that he does on stage. Judy Tenuta, rest her soul, had a character he did on, on stage. Anthony Jeselnik, I have a theory, is actually, his character is based on the son of a Nazi prison guard. And so the idea is that this is this guy comedically walking around saying horrible shit as quietly as possible. That's the joke. That it's a character. He's just playing a Nazi camp guard as a stand-up premise. That's it. He can say anything he wants because the concept is, the punchline is always, I'm awful. Right? Hogan's Heroes was based on a true story. Cat Femme. Do you know that? Do you know that? You know Hogan's Heroes was, Hogan's Heroes, the series, was actually based on a real guy. Here, I'll show you. The Great Escape was also stolen from it. There's a guy named Charles Coward. Where is he? Let's see if I can show. The movie they did on it was pretty bad, but the series was based, on this idea. See if I can find the book cover. Yeah, here you go. Because the cover is so classic. Open image in another time. There you go. Now let me show this up. Yeah. So there was a guy named Charles Coward who was awarded the Iron Cross while he was in a military hospital posing as a German. They captured him. He pretended to be wounded, and they took him to a hospital, and he laid in the bed covered in bandages, and then they ended up, here, I'll show you. This is a real dude. This is the movie. Dirk Bogarde played him in the movie, The Password is Courage, but it's based on a true story. Dude saved hundreds more people than Schindler ever did, and he was a complete asshole and really funny. Hogan was based on this real guy, Charles Coward, which was his real name. I've wanted to do the movie about this forever. I'm starting to get to the point where I look the part. I could do it. I need a haircut and a shave, but Coward himself was an amazing human being. Escaped multiple times. Allowed himself to be recaptured to save a bunch of people, snuck explosives in his pants legs to blow up the furnace so that they couldn't dispose of the bodies at one of the camps. Just an amazing human being. Yeah, incredible story. And the book is okay. It's not bad, but and I have a really dog-eared copy. There you go. That's your job as a POW. I would argue that's true, but but many didn't. He did. So there you go. Okay, thanks, Paul Thanos. Not much of a shave. Easy, Peter. He escaped more times than anybody cared to count. He was beaten within an inch of his life several times, but he was always funny. That was what stood out about him, was that he never lost his sense of humor in the process. Thanks, Tabitha. Wasn't Hogan a total freak? Bob Crane, yeah, he was. Did you ever see Autofocus? That's the movie about Bob Crane. He was fucked up. But yeah, so, it's not a good idea to put down Schindler. Oh, I'm not putting him down. I'm just saying, you know about Schindler. He did great work, but this guy saved way more people. And many of you, this is the first time you've ever even heard about this story, right? Yeah, the movie's available for free on YouTube. Yeah, it's fairly cheap. So, it's not the greatest movie. There are, and again, most of the offshoots are better than the actual story where they're telling the real story about him, which is kind of sad. Hogan's Heroes is very funny and well done, and The Great Escape talks about how many times this dude got out and they made him American, that kind of shit. They kind of made it this like United Colors of Benetton crowd and all this kind of stuff, which is great. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad because that movie gave us Top Secret, but there you go. Just saying. Yes, Bob Crane was murdered by allegedly by the guy who used to film him having sex with blue-haired old ladies while he was on the dinner theater circuit. There you go. So, anyways, now you know. Now you know about Charles Coward, the ironically named British pilot who saved 10 times more Jews than Schindler, and you never heard of him. And you now know where when you watch Hogan's Heroes and you're like, what the fuck is this? Who makes a comedy about guys in a German concentration camp or POW camp? That's who, because it actually fucking happened. He literally, they pinned an iron cross on him while he was in bed pretending to be an injured German soldier, and they didn't realize until he was I think one of the nurses was like, you don't seem German to me, in a very Inglorious Bastards moment. Yeah, he was a pilot. He was shot down. Yeah. My dad wouldn't let me watch, my sister watch Hogan's Heroes because it made the Germans look stupid. Well, humor and comedy does not work in short and or straight, in a short or straight line. I agree, Ali Osher. That is very true. So anyways, I love that story, and I think it's sad that there's not a better version of it that's been done. It just doesn't fall in line with kind of the regular narrative you hear about things these days. So, and it's hard for people to process. But he allowed himself he escaped, and then the Allies were coming, and he allowed himself to be recaptured so that they could blow up the system by which the Germans were hiding evidence of their war crimes. And he could have died doing it. Obviously, he was free and clear. He could have just fucked off, and he intentionally got himself recaptured to do that. I have to rewind to hear his name. Charles Coward is his name. So, and the movie was The Password is Courage in 1962. Again, based largely on a true story. Some of it's even, they even lighten it up more, because there's some gnarly shit, that he and those guys had to do to save themselves. It was a war, right? But that's where Hogan's Heroes came from, and that's where big portions of The Great Escape came from. So now you know. Yeah, the Count of Auschwitz. That's right. There's Charles Coward. There's only two non-Jews with a tree of life in the tree of life grove in Israel, and Coward's one of them.